The arena was already shaking, but nobody was ready for what happened next. Caitlin Clark had just stepped back onto her home floor. The same court she hadn't dominated in months. The same crowd that had been waiting, desperate, to explode the moment she touched the ball. And when they announced her name, the noise didn't just rise, it erupted. Phones couldn't even record it properly. It was chaos. It was anticipation. It was pressure. But within minutes, that energy turned into something darker. Clark drove. Contact. No whistle. Next possession, hit again. Still nothing. The crowd felt it. You could hear the frustration building like a storm about to break. Because this wasn't new. This was the same story fans had been screaming about for months. Hard contact, questionable no-calls, and a growing belief that something wasn't right. And then it happened. Clark rose up for a shot and got hit midair. She landed awkwardly. Stayed down for a second too long. The entire arena froze. Teammates rushed in. Opponents backed away. And for a split second, everything stopped. Not just the game, but the narrative everyone had been ignoring. Because this wasn't just physical anymore. This was becoming personal. And what Caitlin Clark said after the game didn't calm anything down. It lit a fire the entire league is now being forced to answer. And if what she's implying is true, this isn't just about one game anymore. For months, this tension had been building quietly, almost like the league was daring it not to explode. Caitlin Clark didn't just enter the WNBA as a rookie. She entered as a phenomenon. Sold-out arenas, record-breaking ratings, entire teams relocating games just to handle the demand she created. Every move she made wasn't just watched, it was dissected, debated, and amplified across the entire sports world. But with that spotlight came something else. Pressure, resentment, and whispers. Because while fans were celebrating her impact, there were voices inside the game, players, analysts, even former pros, questioning whether the attention was becoming too much, too fast, too centered around one name. And slowly, a narrative started forming. Was Clark being protected or targeted? Her rookie season didn't just test her skill, it tested her durability. Night after night, she faced physical defense that went beyond standard contact. Grabs on drives, bumps off screens, late closeouts that pushed the line just enough to spark debate, but not always enough to draw whistles. Fans noticed. Clips started circulating. Slow-motion breakdowns, side-by-side comparisons, and the same question kept coming back louder each time. Why isn't she getting these calls? Then came the injuries. A quad issue turned into a thigh problem. That turned into a groin concern. Then the ankle. One after another, her body started breaking down. Not from one moment, but from accumulation. And just like that, the player who was supposed to dominate the entire season was reduced to watching from the sidelines. And that changed everything. Because absence doesn't just create silence, it creates perspective. Without Clark, viewership dropped. Energy dropped. The buzz that had been carrying the league suddenly felt quieter. And whether people wanted to admit it or not, her impact became impossible to ignore. But inside that silence, something else was growing. Frustration. Not just from fans, but from Clark herself. She stayed composed publicly, said the right things, trusted the process. But every missed call, every hard hit, every moment where she had to pick herself up off the floor without a whistle, it all added up. And when ESPN released their rankings, placing her at number 10, that was the spark. Because now it wasn't just about contact. It wasn't just about injuries. It felt like disrespect. Fans exploded. Analysts scrambled. And suddenly, the narrative flipped from "can she handle the league?" to "is the league handling her fairly?" So when she finally stepped back onto that court after months of recovery, doubt, and built-up tension, this wasn't just a preseason game. This was a statement, a response, a test. And whether anyone realized it or not, the entire league was about to find out exactly how much pressure Caitlin Clark had been carrying this whole time. Because the moment that followed wasn't random. It was inevitable. The first few minutes felt electric, but unstable. You could sense it in the way Clark was moving. Sharp, aggressive, almost impatient. She wasn't easing into the game. She was attacking it, like she had something to prove, or something to release. First possession, pull-up three. Smooth. Confident. Splash. The crowd exploded. Next trip down, she drives. Defender bumps her hip. No whistle. You hear it immediately. A low rumble from the crowd. Not outrage yet, but recognition. Like they've seen this movie before. Clark doesn't react. She just grabs the ball, jogs back, resets. But her pace changes. Faster now. Sharper. Possession after possession. She keeps going downhill. Drawing contact. Absorbing hits. Finishing through traffic. And finally, the whistle starts coming. One free throw. Then two. Then three. And suddenly, the entire rhythm of the game shifts. Because now the defense has a problem. They can't touch her the same way, but they also can't stop her. And that's when things get physical. Late in the quarter, Clark comes off a screen. Clean look, rising into her shot, and Alana Smith closes out hard. Too hard. There's contact. Not subtle. Not debatable. Clark's body twists midair, her balance completely gone. She crashes to the floor, her legs folding underneath her as the entire arena gasps in unison. Silence. For half a second, everything stops. Then chaos. Teammates rush over. Coaches stand up. The bench is yelling. Fans are on their feet, screaming, pointing, demanding something. Anything from the officials. And the refs. They hesitate. That's what makes it worse. That split-second delay, where nobody knows what the call is going to be. Where it feels like the moment might just get brushed off like so many others before it. But this time, it doesn't. They go to the monitor. And now the tension hits a different level. Because this isn't just a foul anymore. This is a decision. Replay after replay flashes across the screen. Clark in the air. The closeout. The landing space. The contact. The angle. The timing. Fans are shouting. Players are pacing. Social media is already exploding before the call is even made. And then, flagrant, the arena erupts. Not just cheers, relief. Validation. Like something that's been building for 2 years, just finally got acknowledged in real time. Clark gets up slowly. No smile. No celebration. Just a calm, focused look as she walks to the free throw line. And that's when the first shocking twist hits. Because instead of showing frustration, she looks in control. Completely. She knocks down the free throws. One after another. No hesitation. No emotion. Just execution. And suddenly, everything flips. The same contact that used to disrupt her is now feeding her game. The same physicality that once slowed her down is now putting her at the line. Dallas tries to adjust, but it's too late. Clark starts hunting it. Driving into contact. Pulling up when defenders hesitate. Reading every movement like she's already 2 steps ahead. She's not just reacting anymore. She's dictating. And the numbers start stacking up fast. 21 points. In just 16 minutes. 66% shooting. 13 free throw attempts. It's not just efficient. It's surgical. And here's the part nobody expected. After everything, after the contact, the fall, the review, the tension, Caitlin Clark walks into the post-game interview and says something that completely blindsides everyone watching. She praises the referees. Not vaguely, not carefully, directly. I thought they did a really good job tonight. The room goes quiet, because that's not what people were expecting. Not after everything that just happened. Not after 2 years of controversy, missed calls, and frustration. But then she says something else, something that shifts the entire narrative. There's been a focus on calling those plays, and I think it's working. And just like that, the story changes. Because now this isn't just about one hard foul. It's about something bigger. Something that may have quietly changed behind the scenes, without anyone fully realizing it yet. And if that's true, then what we just watched wasn't random. It was the beginning of a completely different version of Caitlin Clark. One the league might not be ready for. That one statement didn't calm anything down. It made everything worse. Because the second Clark said, "The refs did a really good job," the internet split in half instantly. One side saw growth, adjustment, evolution. The other side, they saw something far more uncomfortable. Because for 2 years, the loudest narrative around Caitlin Clark wasn't just about her scoring. It was about how she was being officiated. Missed calls, no protection, getting hit without whistles. Fans had built entire compilations around it. And now suddenly, She's getting 13 free throws in 16 minutes? And praising the refs? Something didn't feel normal. Social media exploded. Since when does she get that whistle? Did the league step in? This is a complete 180. And just like that, the conversation shifted from sympathy to suspicion. But inside the arena, the game told an even more dangerous story. Because while everyone was focused on Clark's scoring, Dallas was falling apart trying to guard her. Every defender looked unsure. Step up too hard, foul. Give space. She pulls up. Stay attached. She blows by you. There was no safe option. And that's when the second twist started revealing itself, not through words, but through behavior. Clark wasn't just benefiting from the calls. She was baiting them. You could see it in her footwork, the hesitation dribbles, the way she leaned into contact at just the right moment, the way she lifted into her shot, knowing exactly where the defender's momentum was going. This wasn't accidental. This was calculated. The same player who once fought through contact was now using it, and Dallas had no answer. But here's where things take another turn, one that most people missed in real time. Despite Clark dominating, Indiana was losing, and not slightly. They were getting outworked. Rebounded 45-26. Turnovers piling up, 17 total. Dallas living at the free throw line themselves with 42 attempts. And suddenly, the spotlight splits. Because while Clark is evolving into something nearly unguardable, her team is showing cracks that can't be ignored. Coach Stephanie White doesn't sugarcoat it. We got out-toughed. That's not strategy. That's identity. And inside that locker room, tension starts building in a different way. Because now the question isn't just about Clark anymore. It's about whether this team can match her level. And then another unexpected name enters the chaos. Raven Johnson. Quiet, controlled, but everywhere. 5 steals, 5 assists. Defensive pressure that completely shifts momentum and stretches. Clark herself calls it out post-game. She brings that edge for us. And just like that, a new dynamic forms. Because now Indiana has 2 energies. Clark, the offensive storm. Raven, the defensive disruptor. But even that isn't enough to stop what's coming next. Because while fans are debating referees, fouls, and rankings, something much bigger is happening behind the scenes. Analysts start revising rankings fast. Clark jumps from 10 to top 5 in some circles within hours. ESPN starts catching heat. Fans demand explanations. And players? They're watching. Because if Clark is now getting calls and scoring like this, that changes everything. It changes how you defend her. It changes how you game plan. It changes who controls the league. And for the first time since she entered the WNBA, it feels like the balance of power might be shifting. Not slowly, violently. But there's one problem no one can ignore. Indiana still lost. And in a league where wins define everything, a dominant performance means nothing if it doesn't translate. So now the pressure doubles. Because Clark didn't just prove she's back. She proved she's evolving into something far more dangerous. And if her team can't keep up, that evolution might create a different kind of problem. One that could fracture everything before it even fully comes together. And the next game, that's where the real answers start. The game ended, but the storm was just getting started. Within minutes, clips flooded every platform. Clark getting hit midair, the flagrant review, the free throws, the quote about the referees. Over and over again, replayed, reframed, reinterpreted. And the internet did what it always does, picked sides and turned the moment into a war. One side called it justice. Finally, she's getting protected. This is what happens when refs do their job. You can't guard her without fouling simple. But the other side? They weren't buying it. This is a complete switch-up. Where was this whistle last season? Now suddenly everything is a foul. And just like that, the narrative exploded into something much bigger than one game. Because this wasn't just about Clark anymore. This was about fairness, about consistency, about whether the league itself had quietly shifted how it treats its biggest star. Former players started weighing in. Some defended the calls, pointing to rule changes, emphasizing player safety, saying the game is evolving. Others weren't so subtle. They questioned the timing, the sudden spike in free throws, the optics of it all. And the word nobody wanted to say out loud started creeping into conversations. Preferential treatment. Meanwhile, inside Indiana's locker room, the energy wasn't nearly as loud, but it was heavier. Because despite everything Clark did, they still lost. And that creates a different kind of tension. Not public, not viral, but real. Because when one player shines that bright, it forces everyone else to look at themselves. The rebounding gap, 19 boards. The turnovers, 17 mistakes. The defensive breakdowns. Coach Stephanie White's words echoed harder after the noise faded. We got out-toughed. That's not something you fix with highlights. That's something you fix, or it breaks you. And then there was Clark herself. Calm, measured, almost too controlled. No outrage, no complaints, no emotional explosion like people expected. And somehow, that made everything more intense. Because instead of feeding the chaos, she redirected it. She validated the refs. She acknowledged the change. And in doing that, she sent a message without ever raising her voice. She's not fighting the system anymore. She's learning how to use it. And that realization hit fans in waves. Because the version of Clark that once battled through contact and frustration is gone. This version is strategic, calculated, dangerous. But not everyone is comfortable with that. Because when a player reaches that level where they can control pace, manipulate defenders, and influence how the game is called, they don't just become hard to guard, they become controversial. And controversy in the WNBA doesn't stay quiet. It spreads to locker rooms, to broadcasts, to league offices, because now every team is asking the same question. How do we defend her if we can't touch her? And every answer leads to the same uncomfortable place. You can't. Not the old way. And if that's true, then what happened in this preseason game wasn't just a performance. It was a warning, one that the rest of the league is already reacting to, whether they admit it or not. And the next time Clark steps on the floor, it won't just be a game anymore. It'll be a test of how far this shift really goes. Just when it felt like the story had already exploded beyond control, something even bigger started surfacing, quietly at first, then all at once. Because while fans were arguing about fouls, refs, and fairness, insiders began pointing to something nobody had fully connected yet. This wasn't random. This wasn't just one game. This was a league-wide adjustment, a shift in officiating emphasis that had been discussed behind closed doors for months. Landing space protection, shooting fouls, perimeter freedom. But here's the twist no one saw coming. Caitlin Clark wasn't just benefiting from it. She was the perfect weapon for it. Think about it. A player with unlimited range who forces defenders to close out harder than anyone else. A ball handler who attacks downhill with speed and precision. A shooter who rises quickly, giving defenders almost no margin for error. Now combine that with stricter foul calls. It's not just an advantage. It's a system built for domination. And suddenly everything clicks. The free throws, the efficiency, the control. This wasn't a lucky night. This was what Clark looks like when the rules finally align with her skill set. And that realization sent a shockwave through the league. Because if this continues, she doesn't just become great, she becomes unstoppable. But here's where it gets dangerous. Because not everyone is going to accept it quietly. Defenders are already frustrated. Coaches are already adjusting. And behind the scenes, there are whispers that some teams are not happy with how quickly things have changed. Too fast, too convenient, too centered around one player. And that's where the tension starts to turn into something bigger than basketball. Because the WNBA isn't just dealing with a superstar anymore. It's dealing with a power shift. A player who drives ratings. A player who fills arenas. A player who now might also control how the game is called. And if that perception grows, even if it's not fully true, it creates a divide. Fans versus fans. Players versus players. Narrative versus reality. And right in the middle of it all is Caitlin Clark. Not complaining, not reacting, just evolving, faster than everyone else can keep up. But don't miss the final piece. Because for all the dominance, all the numbers, all the controversy, there's still one thing hanging over everything like a shadow. Indiana lost. And that changes everything. Because if Clark becomes unstoppable, but the team doesn't win, That creates pressure from a completely different angle. Questions about roster, chemistry, leadership, and whether one player, even one this powerful, can actually carry it all. So now the league faces two terrifying possibilities. Either Clark keeps rising and forces everyone else to adapt, or the pressure around her starts pulling everything apart. And the next game, that's not just another performance. That's where we find out if this was a moment, or the beginning of something the WNBA can't control anymore. Now everything comes down to you. Because this isn't just a game anymore, it's a turning point. You've seen the hits, you've seen the calls, you've seen the reaction, and now the question is simple, but the answer isn't. Did Caitlin Clark just expose a real shift in how the game is being called? Or are we watching the league quietly adjust around its biggest star? Be honest, because this moment is dividing fans, players, and analysts in real time. Is she finally getting the protection she always deserved? Or is this the start of something that could change the balance of the entire league? Drop your take below. I'm reading everything. And don't hold back, because the next game is coming fast, and if this trend continues, we might be witnessing the rise of a version of Caitlin Clark that nobody can stop. Make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because when this story explodes again, you're not going to want to miss it. This isn't over. Not even close.